All right, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
My name is Jennifer Kay, and I'm a professor at Rowan University, a professor of computer science. And in terms of the Google MOOC community, what I do is I have a MOOC that teaches Lego NXT robot programming to K-12 teachers.
All right, typical MOOC questions. How many people participated, and what was your completion rate?
Right. So I gauge my completion rate 25 different ways. So mine is actually an asynchronous course, so you can still sign up for it. It's still available. You can go to cs4hsrobots.appspot.com and you can go take the course right now. As of a few weeks ago, we just hit the 2,000 mark, so we had 2,000 people taking the MOOC. In terms of completion rate, overall completion rate last time I checked was about 10%. And so we beat the 7%, so we're not bad. If you look at the number of people we require in order to get a certificate, which says that you've done the 5 main assignments in the course, and then that the assignments have been evaluated by your principal, your head teacher, by somebody who you're working with. You have to complete 5 robot projects. If you look at the number of people who have gone from the first, who did the first robot project, who reported they did the first robot project, and then reported they did the 5th robot project, we get a much higher percentage. And I'm going to have to email you. I don't remember the percentage. You can put it in your blog.
All right. So why should a parent, who has a child, sort of be interested in robotics now? Mm-hmm. What do you learn by playing with a Lego Mindstorms or another, sort of by building a robot now, and how do you think this might be relevant in the future? Right.
So certainly in the States, there is a real lack of computer science content in schools. So in K-12 schools and even at the university level. So in most states in the U.S., there's no requirement for computer science content, right? So a lot of our kids are not really learning much about computer science. They may have a computers class, but I can tell you that what my own children do in their computers class doesn't seem to me to be much computer science. It's more just computer literacy, being able to use the computers and whatnot. So I see the robot as a tool to get kids excited about programming, right? So it's almost bait and switch, and I will agree that at some level this is, let me show you this fun thing. You want to play with this fun thing? You're going to have to learn a bit of programming, but the programming is just a means to tell your robot what you want it to do, right? So all of a sudden we have kids who have an idea. What is a program? How do I get the robot to do this? Oh, I asked the robot to repeat this piece, but I didn't put the next part in there, so it didn't do what I wanted. Now I understand a little bit about sequencing, a little bit about maybe conditionals, maybe about loops and whatnot. And so all of a sudden, we've given them an idea of what a program is, what an app is, right? And so now, even if they don't become a computer scientist, they become an economist, they go out and they write poetry. If someone says to them, the computer can't do this, right? They go and they say, can I do this? No, the computer can't do that. All I want is for them to be able to say why, right? Why not? Right? Maybe they'll understand the answer, maybe they won't understand the answer, but if they at least have an idea of what computers can and can't do, it gives them a better picture.
So, today I have, we already have sort of obviously lots of stuff in the kitchen.
Sure.
That sort of, that could be described as
as robots. Sure.
We have, for about 6 months, we've had a Roomba.
They're wonderful.
And it's fun watching a 2-year-old interact with that.
Absolutely.
So if you start thinking about what does the world look like 15 or 20 years down the line, why do you think what would be the difference for a child who's been exposed to sort of, who's worked with the robots we have now, with respect to what we think the world might look like tomorrow?
I think, I'm not sure if I'm going to answer your question the way you want me to, but what I'll tell you is I think that just like there's a level of mathematical literacy that you need to survive in the world, there's a level of computer science literacy that you're going to need in order to maybe not survive, but to function well and to interact well with the things that you're doing. So I imagine that people are going to be programming more and more things, right? I mean, your Roomba, I don't know whether you just turn it on and it goes, right? But surely there's some things. There's so many people who say they can't program their DVD player, right? They can't turn on their TV, right? And the more this just becomes natural to them, the same way that math is natural to lots of kids, right? To some people, you go out and of course you understand, the implications of something mathematically, right? You can understand the implications of something from a technical point of view, yes, this is a hard problem because I need to do more complex things computationally than maybe this other problem, and just to give them that basic literacy.
Right. So you see, I mean, so working with learning to code, learning to live in a world in which you have a level of complexity that requires that, it becomes sort of the new form of literacy?
I think so. I think that people in the future, if they don't have these skills, are going to be illiterate in the same way that people who don't have some basic math skills can't figure out whether this box of cereal is better value than this box based on the weight of the cereal and the amount of right, and the cost, right? There's some basic things that you're just not going to be able to do.
All right. So one last question, which is more about that cultural dimension and sort of acceptance of living in a world in which sort of machines are going to perform sort of more and more tasks. Yes, I mean, there's been recent sort of debates about the second machine age and what it means to have sort of most of basically the crappy jobs, yes, in sort of Western affluent societies that will be done by machines, replacing the people who are doing those jobs now.
Right.
So what, as a teacher, looking at, you're presumably working with or addressing, the kids who are going to grow up in that world. What do you see? How do you see that? Do you see, yes?
Well, yay that they don't have to do the crappy jobs, right? I mean, your kids, right? What did you say, 3-year-old?
8 and 2.
8 and 2, right? Your 8-year-old and your 2-year-old aren't going to have to wander around the house and vacuum, right? That's not going to be the job that's going to be their chore. They may have other chores, but they're not going to have that one, right? And on the bigger scale, I mean, boy, it would be nice if you didn't, if people didn't have to be the street cleaners and if I want to automate the crappy jobs, right? It would be very nice to do that so that everybody can do things that are more fulfilling and more interesting.